Hello, good evening. Welcome back to the Tunnel Podcast and what has been a festive frenzy of football on Boxing Day. Delighted to say, as always, I'm joined by Tom Goff. Tom, Merry Christmas, mate.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, mate. I hope you, well, no, you had a good one, didn't you, mate? A few too many tinnies.
Listen, it was actually, I've had kids, right, for like 7 years. And it's been the best one in terms of calmness and how it all kind of fell in. So,
Yeah, mate.
maybe I did overindulge slightly on Christmas Day. But it made the football a little bit better because I was horizontal all day yesterday. So, listen, loads and loads to talk about. And we've got to start with the breaking news before we've come on, maybe 45 minutes, an hour ago. Stoke have pulled the trigger on Narcis Pelac. We spoke about this for a few weeks now. You know, it's just not really been working out for him. And tonight's the night that he's bit the dust after that 2-0 defeat to Leeds yesterday.
Yeah, well, we were going to, I think I'd said, I'd put in, a potential conversation piece was going to be, Stoke on the slide, wasn't it? They're on a real bad run of form. They haven't won a game since the start of November. And, we've had a few chats about, this risk. It's got to be called for what it is, isn't it? It was a big risk, by Stoke to get rid of Schumacher and replace him with Pelac. Had no kind of first team managerial experience. Obviously he's been a coach for a bit, been coaching alongside, I keep forgetting his name, the Norwich manager. Obviously came across from Germany to Norwich. Is that right? I might be getting that completely wrong. Who's the Norwich manager?
It sounds all good to me, mate.
He was number 2, wasn't he? He was number 2.
Yeah,
I was getting mixed up with the chap at Hull a bit, but yeah, he was number 2 to the guy at Norwich, and a lot of people are thinking, well, where's this come from? Why have they got rid of Schumacher? I know they weren't doing fantastically well, but there was a lot of people out there, myself included, who felt like Schumacher was starting to slowly kind of make a bit of progress at Stoke. And yeah, they got rid of him and brought in Pelac, and yeah, a lot of people were confused, myself included. Why they'd gone for this guy in particular. Is there something that they've seen that no one else has? But yeah, what are we? September that wasn't it? So we're a couple of months down the line, and he's already got the sack. Vast majority of people out there probably knew this was going to likely happen at some point this season. It was just a strange decision right from the off, mate. And they did turn a bit of a corner, didn't they? Because I remember we had a little chat about them. When he came in, he did get a bit of a reaction out of them. They got a couple of wins, and it looked like he was making a bit of improvement. But pretty much since we had that chat, I think they've just been on the slide. Like I said, the last win was 6th of November. I think they've picked up 1 point from their last 6, I believe. So, obviously Stoke have made the call to get rid of him, which it's just embarrassing, I feel, for Stoke, and especially John Walters, and I think he has been getting a lot of stick from Stoke fans. Obviously it's quite new news, isn't it? But I've already seen a lot of Stoke fans on social media laying into John Walters because he was the one who made the decision to get rid of Schumacher and bring in Pelac, and it's just not worked. It's just turned out to be an absolute shambles, hasn't it? So they're back to square one. The worst possible time, isn't it? Trying to bring in a manager, at this moment in time, because January transfer window is about to open. You want to be settled, don't you, and prepped and ready to go in January and start moving for those targets. But you get rid of the manager, you got to bring someone in, and then you've got to see what players they want, what kind of players they want to bring in and chop and change, and the squad, and it's just it's a disaster for them. So feel a bit for Stoke fans at this moment in time, because it's...
No, you don't lie, you don't feel for Stoke fans, come on.
Yeah, true, I don't feel for them, man. I was trying to be nice then, Christmas spirit and all that jazz, mate. Yeah,
just on John Walters, because you make a great point. He's in the statement they've released. He said, "I take full responsibility for the decision, and I'm absolutely determined that we'll now make the right choice to take us forward." Look, I'm going to call it. Stoke seems like a bit of a graveyard for managers at the moment. You look since they've come down. in May 18. I think they'll be going on to their 7th permanent manager. They've had a couple of caretakers in between there. No one's getting the time. No one's getting it right. They're now 3 points above, the bottom 3 here. Whoever comes in doesn't want to have Stoke into League One on their CV, really. Where do you see them going here? Do they need to go for experience? Look, I've done what you done before I came on, looked at who the Stoke fans are wanting. This is not names that have been linked officially, but I saw it was from the sublime to the ridiculous. Some people saying Steve Cooper, other people saying Gareth Southgate. There was a shout for Big Sam as well. Where does Stoke need to go? Because let's be clear, it's not the Stoke of 10, 15 years ago with Tony Pulis and the Coates family chucking loads of money at it. They're not doing that anymore. They seem to be trying to be a bit more reserved and not pumping in millions and millions. So you're going to try and have to get the best out of the squad that's already there and possibly lose Tom Cannon in January as well.
Well, that's it, mate. It's I know we're gonna start talking about Corberan and West Brom shortly, but there's a massive contrast there, isn't it? Where there's probably some appeal to the West Brom job, isn't there, at this moment in time? Whereas the Stoke job, like you just said, there's just who is actually gonna want to take that job. If I was a Stoke fan right now, for me, you've got to be looking to bring someone in with some experience, in the Championship, a lot of Championship experience, preferably, some experience managing a team kind of, struggling down towards the bottom end of the division, and they've come in and they've been able to kind of, bring the group together, get a positive reaction early doors, and start climbing up the table. That's the kind of manager they want to be bringing in, but then, are they going to be able to attract someone like that? I don't think so. Like you said, they just have had a horrific record in recent seasons of just hiring and sacking managers. Like you said, they just don't seem to give anyone any kind of decent bit of time. There's obviously some rot that's set into the club, isn't there? And like you said, they were spending money left, right, and centre, weren't they? And it wasn't working. And like you said, they kept chopping and changing the managers. And this is again why I just find it so baffling with the sacking of Schumacher early on in the season, because they weren't doing terribly. And I did feel like he was getting a bit of a reaction from the players. He was starting to kind of integrate a bit of philosophy there. I just felt they just completely, got that decision wrong. And, if they'd got rid of Schumacher, say, and brought in someone that I'm talking about now, someone with, experience, then you could maybe say, okay, well, this guy was available. You could understand maybe the logic there. But for him to get rid of, a guy who has got more experience, managing a team, actually being the manager, calling the shots, to get rid of Schumacher and bring in Pelak, who had only ever been a coach at that point in time, into such a difficult scenario, like you pointed out, a team that's just been on the decline for a long time now. The stadium's getting emptier and emptier, isn't it? The fans aren't coming anymore. It ain't the cauldron of noise it once was, is it? It's anything but nowadays. It's almost like a bit of a graveyard. For him to take that risk and bring him in, it's just a ridiculous decision. It's like you said, John Walters. I don't know how he's kind of kept his job, to be honest with you, off the back of that decision. And well, I think he's got this. He's got to get this one right, hasn't he? Because I think his job's probably going to be on the line, isn't he? If he makes another blunder decision,
that's how it read. That's how it read there. That he's got to get the next one right, and he's probably with an understanding the owner that it has to be the right appointment. Just looking at it, the next 3 games: Sunderland, Burnley, then Plymouth. We shouldn't laugh. However, you look down that Oxford have got a win at the weekend. Hull seem to be having a bit of a turn. We've spoken about Portsmouth already. You could go into the new year, and albeit still managerless, and in that bottom 3. So it's a really, really tough time if you are a Stoke fan, and obviously if you're the owner of the club as well.
Oh yes, mate. Like you said, I think it's only maybe Plymouth and Cardiff, who are in worse form than them at this moment in time, or similar form. Like you said, a few of those teams down at the bottom have picked up a little bit, haven't you? Like you said, they've got a couple of results, they've got a couple of wins. It's jumped them up the table a little bit, giving them a bit of confidence. Even though some of those teams have maybe then followed it up with a defeat, the likes of Portsmouth, the likes of Luton, likes of Queen's Park Rangers. They've picked up some results, and there's been an improvement, in terms of the football on the pitch. Obviously giving them a bit of confidence. Whereas, it's the complete opposite for Stoke. They're just getting worse as each game passes. So, it's like I said, it's not a very nice time to be a Stoke fan now because, I just cannot see who they're going to attract. I just cannot see who they're going to bring in. For me, it does need someone like a Sam Allardyce, someone like that to come in and, go a little bit old school, but, try and lift the players' spirits, build a bit of a, improve that, the dressing room, the feel in the dressing room, lift the players up, and just try and, start grinding out some points, But I just don't think they're going to be able to attract someone like that. I think people are going to be looking at that job and thinking, I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot barge pole. And then you're kind of looking again at, someone similar to Palak, a bit of an unknown, someone who's willing to take the risk of joining Stoke at this moment in time because, they see it as an opportunity, to land their first managerial role perhaps, or maybe someone in League One who's doing well, jump up to the Championship. I think that's going to be the pool that they're looking at. Some of the guys you were naming them, absolutely no chance.
Listen, they've said on the statement as well that they'll announce who's going to be the kind of management team for obviously the visit of Sunderland come Sunday. But I think, you talk about grinding results. I think it's important as well that whoever comes in tries to get that synergy back between the fans and the football club, because you say it seems massively lost at the moment. Okay, let's move on to Carlos Corberan, because he was going to be the big story. Your own football club tweeting, really late on Christmas Eve. Everyone was in their beds. We woke up to the news that he'd gone. He'd taken the chance to join his boyhood heroes, Valencia, who I think are having their own relegation battle in La Liga. You knew the day was coming, Tom. Just talk us through sort of that feeling, that emotion. Where do West Brom go now?
It's a difficult one, mate. 'Cause look, I'm not going to lie, I was absolutely devastated. He probably since, Roy Hodgson and Steve Clarke, he's probably the first manager where I've kind of really, fell for him, so to speak. I've really, just, enjoyed his time at the club. It's difficult to explain, man. Like, I was gutted. Look, let's just put it that way. I was absolutely devastated. I do feel that the guy has been working wonders ever since he stepped foot through the door. He took over from Steve Bruce. We were in the relegation zone. We were kind of, we've just been talking about Stoke and the situation they find themselves in. We were in a similar kind of situation. We were on the decline. A lot of the fans had stopped coming to the games. We were only heading in one direction, but, he's come in under incredibly difficult circumstances, not had any money to spend really. Even up to the day that he left, he's had peanuts really to spend. So he's been working with the players he had available to him, and kind of shopping in the bargain bin. But even still, he's just managed to do a fantastic job. Got us into the playoffs last season. This season, we were obviously in the playoff mix. We obviously went on that weird run of draws. I know we were unbeaten for a long period of time, but we weren't winning many games, were we? And, there was a few Albion fans out there, a few murmurs, a few people starting to maybe call for him, to be replaced, but very, very small minority. The vast majority of Albion fans, were of the same opinion as me, and that, he was doing a fantastic job with one hand tied behind his back, really. So, yeah, absolutely gutted he's gone. I think he was, I think we've got an okay squad for this level. A top 10 squad definitely, but I think he was squeezing out a bit extra, and he, the one thing that I thought he did exceptionally well was he just kind of turned players that, a lot of Albion fans thought were done. The likes of kind of Darnell Furlong, Carl Bartley, Alex Mowat, Carlin Grant. We didn't think these guys were going to pull on an Albion shirt again, but, he managed to turn them into really important players, improve them drastically, So he's obviously a very, very talented coach. So yeah, man, I was good, and like you said, it's just the worst possible time because, I feel like it would, there would have been an action plan in place ready for January. We've got new owners in now, new technical director. I feel like there would have been a plan there ready to go come the 1st of January, but that's all kind of going to be put on hold now, isn't it? Because, like you said, we've obviously got to bring in a new head coach, and then they're going to need a bit of time to assess the squad, make a decision on, maybe some players that Corberan potentially didn't fancy. Maybe he's going to have to sit down, look at the players that they've maybe earmarked as potential signings, decide whether they, it's just, it's put a real spanner in the works, mate.
Whilst navigating all these fixtures that are coming up as well, mate.
That's it, mate. Like I said, we're playing. It's something like 5 games. We're in the middle of 5 games in 14, 15 days, something crazy. So, exactly, the games are coming thick and fast as well. It just couldn't have come at a worse time, really. So, yeah, the Albion fans, mate, are just absolutely devastated. One, because we've lost Carlos Corberan, but then 2, the timing is going to have a real kind of severe impact on our season. We obviously played Derby yesterday. I didn't think we played particularly badly. We played quite well in spells, but there was definitely a lack of kind of energy and intensity from the players, and you could almost see that kind of disappointment in them. A lot of those guys are going to be bitterly disappointed that Corberan's left. We just couldn't match Derby's kind of intensity and energy, and ultimately that's what cost us the game. And I think it is going to be difficult for Brunton and Myhill, who have come in and taken temporary charge. I do think it's going to be difficult for them to kind of get the players in the right mindset, over that, try and get them over the loss of Corberan and try and think, thinking forward positively. I think it's going to be difficult for them to do that. I think it's, it's all going to kind of, it's going to, the new appointment's going to be key. That's going to be the lift, I think, for the players. But then, like you pointed out, that could be 6-7 games down the line. And by that time, we're cut adrift from the playoff, the playoff places. So, yeah, it's concerning, mate. It is what it is. I can understand these decisions. When it was announced Valencia were really interested in him, reliable sources. I read that, he's from the area. It's his boyhood club. I know they're going through some difficulties. They're in a bit of a relegation fight in La Liga, but still, the opportunity to manage, they are a big Spanish team still, a big pull, and, mix it with the likes of Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid. You can't begrudge him making the move, but yeah, the timing, mate, it's just, it sucks.
I don't want to sound right, but it almost feels like you guys have suffered a loss. You're grieving, okay?
Yeah.
And you mentioned the other players obviously feeling similar. Didn't see the game last night because it coincided with another match that I was watching, but certainly it kind of feels like that. So how important is it then? We spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, that the fans really need to back the boys. The fans need to get them going. Because as much as the fans are grieving as well as the players, I think there comes a real responsibility from supporters. I was reading tweets last night when I was laid in bed about West Brom fans saying that the away support was not what it once was. They weren't really back on the side as soon as they went 1-0 down. And we've said that at times watching the home games as well. So, can the supporters play a big part just to get them through this couple of games before a new manager is announced?
They can, mate, but it won't happen. I've said to you a few times, the you know, I've got to be careful kind of how I word this, haven't I? But yeah, it's been a bit of an odd one this season because, we started the season so well under Corberan. I think expectations amongst, a proportion of our fan base just kind of skyrocketed. That start we had, they kind of felt, we should be challenging for automatic promotion here. And then obviously when we kind of went on that odd run where, we were drawing a lot of games, like I said to you, there was more and more as each week passed, calling for kind of Corberan to leave and someone else to be brought in. And I think that in itself has kind of created a weird divide amongst the fans, because I'd say, at the very least 2/3, maybe even 3/4 of the Albion fans, kind of are behind Corberan, and appreciate the job he was doing. But like I said, those wanting him out was slowly kind of increasing as each game passed. And that was creating a bit of a divide. And then, I've said this to you a few times, haven't I? And like, I haven't been anywhere near as much as I would like this season. But, when I have been, the atmosphere has just been lacking. It just hasn't been, the same as it once was. We're getting the numbers. It's weird because, we're getting the numbers. In terms of our stadium and the capacity, we fill each week, we're one of the best in the division. But I don't know what it is. It is difficult when you're kind of drawing a lot of games. You're obviously not getting those wins at home, and you're not scoring many goals, which was the case this season. So Corberan and the players, there's got to be an acceptance there from them that the atmosphere is taking a bit of a hit because of that. But you are right. There doesn't seem to be this kind of togetherness, which there was not so long ago. When we had our previous owner in, there was this real togetherness amongst the fans because, we wanted them out. They weren't doing the club any good, and we all kind of come together and got behind Corberan last season, and it helped us immensely. Whereas this season, that isn't there in the background. We've got these new owners in. That isn't an issue. It's just kind of had this weird, like, negative effect on the fan base, and the atmosphere we generate, especially at the Hawthorn. So, yeah, I'm hoping, Brunty's a legend, mate, absolute legend for the club. So, I'm hoping, the next home game, which I think is Preston, at home on New Year's Day, hoping the fans, get right behind Brunty. I think they will. But yeah, I know it sounds obvious, but we've got to get this new manager in sooner rather than later.
So let's chuck some names out then, because again, nothing concrete. You said before you came on, we're only going to believe it when John Percy tweets it. But there has been little bits and bobs we've passed between each other the last couple of days. Canning at Bristol City was the first name, and then strange favourite tonight as we came on, Johnny Heitinger.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, mate. I think there's nothing to any of these links at this moment in time. I think some of the guys that have been linked, it's obvious as to why. Likes of Mark Robbins, Steve Cooper, guys that are out of work at this moment in time who their level is probably top of Championship, isn't it? Kind of bottom half Premier League. So, what's his name as well? Russell Martin, who's obviously just recently been sacked from Southampton. So, it's obvious why those guys are being linked. But again, I don't think there's any truth to any of it at this moment in time. I just think the links to Heitinger and Tudor are just like pure paper talk, mate. I honestly do. I don't think there's like I said, I don't think there's anything to any of these links at this moment in time, mate. There's only a few reliable Albion sources out there, and none of them have said anything at this moment in time. So,
it's the Patels, right? I'm getting that surname right.
The Patels, yeah.
When they were involved with Bologna, there seemed to be a trend of when they're hiring managers, they want someone who's got a knowledge of the division, a knowledge of the league. That would surely rule those guys out. Sorry, especially Heitinger, the favourite out at the moment. We've spoke at length about Mark Robbins numerous times. I think if you want to go for someone and get them in quick, I would get someone that's unattached. Should speed things up. but also and the guys you've just mentioned there, that there's some real quality in the guys that are unattached.
I think so, mate, and that's the route I want us to go down. I think, it's like I said to you, if we can get someone in quickly, this season's still to play for. We're only a couple of points outside the playoffs, so if we can make an appointment quite quickly, then we've obviously still got a chance of getting into the playoffs. And I think if that's our ambition this season, if that's the Patel's ambition, then we've got to be looking at someone like a Robbins, a Cooper, even kind of Russell Martin. I'd even throw, Tony Mowbray in there, maybe. These guys who have managed teams at the top of the championship, who have playoff experience, like you said, they're ready to go straight away. That's the route I'd be going down, and that's the route that I hope we take. But then I don't know whether they obviously purchased the club. Corberan was obviously already in charge, so a lot of these kind of owners nowadays, they like to come in, they like to make their own appointment, don't they? A lot of the time, thankfully the Patels saw that Corberan was a good fit. He was doing a good job. Absolutely no need to mess around there. Circumstance now, he's left, he's gone to Valencia. They might be thinking, we want to bring our guy in now, build a bit of, someone maybe long term, someone like a Heitinger, someone who's kind of highly regarded as a coach, young, kind of forward thinking, maybe,
but that's all the things that we just, damn Stoke for doing.
100%. I don't want us to go down that route, mate. And it makes me laugh because you sent me the link, didn't you? The Heitinger link, maybe yesterday, day before, and I said to you, like, the Gen Z will love it, mate. They'll absolutely love that because it's it's just football nowadays, mate. That's a sexy appointment. That is, he's obviously coached to Arne Slot at Liverpool at this moment in time. I think he's been involved with Ajax. I think he took temporary charge of Ajax for a period of time or something like that.
That's right, yeah.
It just the amount of Albion fans who I've seen just kind of already getting excited about that potentially happening. And I'm struggling to see the logic, given the circumstances, surely going for a Robbins or a Cooper is the sensible option here. And it's not like these guys, these guys, their teams play some decent football as well. They're not just kind of, guys that just grind out results and, their teams are tough to beat. Both Robbins and Cooper's team, they can play some good, attractive football. Coventry did, and Steve Cooper, his Nottingham Forest team most definitely did. So, yeah, that's the route they've got to be going down for me, mate. And and if they're struggling to maybe tempt someone like that, I'd be looking at maybe a promising young head coach from the Championship. Someone like a Liam Manning, something like that. At least they've got some Championship experience. At least they know, the kind of how punishing the Championship is and what's needed to succeed in it. I just think going for someone like Heitinger, I just think it would be a massive risk. And, it's sounds a bit of a cliche, but, it's 50-50 whether it's going to pull off or not. I just think with a Robbins or a Cooper, you've got much better odds of them coming in, keeping the train rolling, keeping us in that playoff mix, picking things up quickly, getting to grips with it. And, we might be able to get something out of this season as well.
Do you think the Swansea game on January the 4th will come round too soon for an appointment? More likely to see a new face and dugout for Bournemouth in the FA Cup?
Yeah, I think so, mate. I think so. Swansea's after the Preston game, isn't it? Yeah. I think so. That's 3 more matches, isn't it? Yeah, I'd be surprised before then. I think these 3 matches are probably going to be seen out by Brunt and Myhill. I think I read something today as well that Patel, and I think that I always forget, he's the director of football, Andrew Nestor, I think his name is. Statement from him saying, we're not going to rush into this. We're going to take our time. I know they always come out and say that, but I'd be surprised if someone's in by that Swansea game. I think they'll be looking at maybe not even the cup because we're not really going to. We haven't got Bournemouth are clear favourites for that, aren't they? I think they'll be looking after that. as maybe the first game to have someone in the hot seat, ready to go from there.
Stoke at home would be the next game. Interesting
Well,
watch.
there you go. Yeah. It could be two new managers, first game going head to head.
Nah, I fancy Mark Roberts to get you into the fourth round of the FA Cup, mate. Okay, we'll draw a line under that. Look, I know we spoke about managers for the last half an hour, but some cracking action on the pitch yesterday as well. Burnley go to Bramall Lane and topple the top side. A really impressive performance, you have to say. Sheffield United, were stifled. Burnley got under press really quickly, and then but Sheffield United were, from what I've seen from the extended pilot package, it was just kind of long shots from Hamer at times, and then Brownhill pops off the back stick to put them 1-0 up.
Yeah, mate, it was. I tell you what, like we obviously had a chat about Burnley. I think maybe the last pod where is it time to start taking them seriously? They're on this great run, and we obviously said, well, the next game is going to be the test, isn't it? Sheffield United away, league leaders, arguably the best team in the division, been fantastic at home, and you're absolutely right. They I won't say they made light work of it, but they pretty much did to Sheffield United what Sheffield United have done to everyone else. In that,
that's the best way to put it. That's stunning, absolutely stunning.
They just kind of, they scored a couple of goals. They took their chances when they came. They got a bit fortuitous with the second goal, took a bit deflection and kind of rocketed into the top corner. But they completely limited Sheffield United to half chances. Like you said, shots outside the box, couple of kind of scrambles in the box, but Trafford in goal for Burnley. I can't remember him making any decent save throughout the 90 minutes. Whereas Burnley, they looked really good on the counter attack. Carved out a couple of good chances late on when Sheffield United were obviously committing guys forward. I was just really, really impressed with Burnley, and it just kind of reinforces what we were saying last week. In that, I think people need to be kind of taking note of them now. They are definitely contenders. They've proven that with that performance, and that victory against Sheffield United. And I saw something today. They're the only team to have beaten Leeds at Leeds this season. They beat Leeds 1-0 early on in the season. And I think they're only one of two teams to have beaten Norwich. Norwich are terrible away, but they've got a really good home form. So, they're really good on the road as well, Burnley, which is obviously absolutely vital. So, and I think they're going to have some money to spend, in January, because they lost a lot of key players right at the end of the transfer window, and they managed to replace a few of them, but it didn't leave them a lot of time to kind of spend all that money, and bring in as many players as Parker would have liked. So I've got a feeling that they're going to really attack the January transfer window and, make some decent appointments. I think, obviously coming down from the Premier League last season, I think they're going to have a bit of money to spend as well. So, I think Burnley are well in the mix with Leeds and Sheffield United, for those automatic spots.
Well, I think, they've been really, I say quiet for us. We've spent a lot of time talking about Sheffield United and Leeds. Obviously, Leeds did go back top with that win at Stoke late last night. However, Burnley, as you said, they're now in the mix now. The other two are definitely taking them seriously. I don't know if you heard Chris Wilder's comments after the game. He did sort of highlight how much money's worth of talent they had on the bench to bring on as well at their disposal. Not like Chris Wilder to talk that after a loss, but he did. And you just think that, as you say, if they're in that top two and they're in and around it, then, backing the manager might just get them over the line.
Yeah, that's it. Again, we've been saying it for the last couple of weeks now, aren't we? This January transfer window is going to be very interesting, to keep an eye on, because I think those teams battling it out for automatic promotion, I think it is going to come down. There's not much between them, is there? There's not much between them at all, and I think it is going to come down to who they bring in January. If they can strengthen well and make some really good additions in this transfer window, then I think that could be the difference between an automatic spot and a playoff spot. It's funny Chris Wilder saying what he's saying about money on the bench and this, that, and the other, because they obviously spent a fair bit, didn't they, in the previous transfer window, and a couple of cracking loan signings in that squad. So yeah, he can't really talk, I don't think, but he's not wrong. They've got a great squad for this level, and they're proving it, aren't they? I was going to mention Browner. I've mentioned him before. He's one of those players, like he's
Ronaldinho's favourite player, I was told a couple of days ago. So there you go.
he's ridiculous at this level. He's one of them. He's not much when he goes up into the Premier League, but at Championship level, he's a cut above, and he's on 9 goals and 3 assists already this season. Captain's armband, scored the important opener against Sheffield United at the weekend.
Should Cooper do better with that header, or is it because he heads it into the ground, it kind of beats him?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a bit harsh. I think the pace on it, like you said, head it down into the ground. Slippery surface. You're probably expecting better from him because of just how exceptional he's been so far this season. But I think maybe being a little bit harsh there. But I thought it was a great goal from Burnley. On the counter, good crossing from the left, and Brownlow with a diving header at the back post. So there was no look about their opener, and it's fair play to Scott Parker because he's kind of silencing a few doubters and a few critics. I was one of them. Yeah, we were both one of them, and like we've said before, there's a few other podcasts out there who weren't tipping them to compete, saying that, Scott Parker's teams always start off well, but then they start stuttering. Well, they seem to be doing the opposite this season. They kind of had a little stuttering spell, didn't they? Started well, started stuttering a little bit. They were having to kind of grind out a few wins, and there was a few draws in there, and they were kind of sat in the playoff positions, but they're on a cracking run at the minute, and they just, they seem to have started gelling. Those guys they brought in at the end of the transfer window in the summer, they really seem to be gelling into the team now, and they look a real force.
Just on Wilder there and Sheffield United, because Vinny D'Souza went off injured. I think Harry Souttar's going to be out for quite a while. There's also talk today, whether it's true or not, about Alfie Gilchrist possibly going to another club on loan in January. I think the player might be keen on staying at Bramall Lane. However, Chelsea, there's been interest in him from other places as well. We talk about the January window. This January window could have a different complexion because, as you well know, the European competitions are still ongoing. They've not gone into the next round yet. So, this league format's continuing into sort of mid to late January, which means players might want to hold on to players a little bit longer till they know if they're going to be playing in Europe next season. Next round, should I say? So it could be a bit of a juggling act, and it could be quite prolonged towards the latter days of the window.
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. I think, especially for Championship clubs, the vast majority of Championship clubs now, and especially in January, rely a lot on loans. And I think you're right. I think it's going to be very late in the window where, those Premier League teams, especially the big clubs, like you said, that are still competing in Europe, are going to be making a decision, as to whether to send certain players out on loan or to keep hold of them or not. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think there's going to be the vast majority of the action is going to be towards the end of the transfer window. I do think with some of those clubs, though, I do think, especially Sheffield United and Burnley, I do think they're going to have a bit of money to spend. So you might see a bit of business from them earlier on in the transfer window. Like you said, Sheffield United, that is the one thing Wilder can kind of stand up and say in that they have been very unlucky with injuries this season. And when you take into consideration some of the guys that they've lost, for them to still be where they are, and they had a couple of points taken off them at the start of the season as well. He's done an incredible job, really. They've lost some key players, and they've got a good squad, but the amount of times he's obviously having to chop and change, and to juggle that, he's done incredibly well, and for him to keep winning and picking up points and sat at the top of the table. So, but I think it's them more than Burnley most definitely need to do some business in Sheffield United, because, like you said, they've been riddled with injuries so far this season. There's a risk. You talk about Gilchrist, but I wouldn't put it past Crystal Palace as well. I don't know what the terms of the loan deal are with Raksaki, but Palace have had a bit of an indifferent season, haven't they, in the Premier League? For them maybe to be having a look at him and thinking, is this guy good enough to get involved in our first team squad? For the second half of the season. You don't know, do you? There's always that worry there, isn't there? So it's like I said, it's just when we started talking about this, it's going to be January's going to be vital for every team in the Championship, but yeah, I think for those teams at the top, it's even more so because it's going to be as to whether you get an automatic spot or a playoff spot. I think it's going to be really close between those three teams. And possibly Sunderland still, I'm not gonna kind of, I've learnt my lesson, mate, of kind of, what's the word?
Writing them off.
Writing them off, mate. Yeah, I've learnt my lesson. So, but I do genuinely believe now, Burnley, they've done enough in recent weeks now to convince me that I think they're definitely right in the mix with Leeds and Sheffield United for those top two spots.
Borough away next for a nice easy one for Sheffield United. They've got West Brom at home on Sunday. So okay, let's move over to which I thought was an absolute cracker yesterday. It was obviously that game at the Riverside. Middlesbrough 3, Sheffield Wednesday 3. Now I watched this at some company yesterday afternoon, one of which was a Sheffield Wednesday fan, so we started the game on, and at 3-0, I put a tweet out on the Tunnel X account. I said this is going to be whatever Middlesbrough want it to be. And friend of the show, George Aitken, Sheffield Wednesday fan, who's been on with us before, as soon as the second one went in, he tweeted me, he says, "You still feel like that," or something Saki like that. It's listen, all good fun, all good nature. Listen, it was an absolute firecracker. Real Jekyll and Hyde performance from Middlesbrough. First half, they were everything that we speak about, positive, everything, best football inside on the day in the division. Second half, they just absolutely crumbled.
Yeah, I read today as well that there was a few boos from the Middlesbrough fans at the end of the game. Again, I don't think there was many, and the people I saw on X, were plenty of Borough fans just slamming them, saying like, you're off your head, like Carrick's doing a fantastic job, but there's definitely a vulnerability to him, isn't there? This isn't the first time this season where they've started a game incredibly well, scored a couple of goals. And like you say, you've just kind of looked at it and thought, well, this is just a case of, how many are they going to score here? They're just absolutely breezing past the opposition here. Like you said, playing some of the best football in the division. But then, they've definitely got this this vulnerability about them, especially in defence. It's weird because at the start of the season, they were conceding very little and they were really good defensively. But I don't know whether it's something in Carrick's kind of tactics and approach that they've, sacrificed kind of some of that kind of defensive organisation or whatever you want to call it in favour of, kind of going forward and attacking. I don't know, but they have been shipping a lot of goals of late, and I like you said, I didn't watch it. I just caught the highlights and kind of read the report. But it seemed, they just bit of complacency maybe from them. 3-0 up, they're thinking the game's won, because from the highlights, it looked like Sheffield Wednesday had a couple of chances at the end of the first half, to get back into the game. Obviously, didn't take it, went in, at half time 3-0 down, but then second half, from what I saw, it was all Sheffield Wednesday, and Borough just couldn't handle it, couldn't deal with it. Obviously got the man sent off, which then just adds to their woes, and they've obviously gone and got the equaliser late on. Absolute classic, like you said, but Borough fans are going to be absolutely devastated with that, because 3-0 up, like you said, playing great stuff, to throw that away like they did, they've got to be concerned, haven't they? There's something not quite right, is there?
If you listen to Carrick after the game, he said, I'm really concerned that we unravelled so quickly. Something that we need to look at and something that we need to do something about. He said decision making was poor. We cleared our heads when the third goal went in, but it was all too late. He almost seemed to, he was very disappointed, arguably, and he added to that about, feels like we've got nothing from this game after being 3-0 up, albeit we got a point, but should have been all three. And we've just touched on for the last 10 minutes, it's a tougher task coming on Sunday night.
Yeah, but this is the crazy thing with him. You wouldn't be surprised to see him. Is it at Borough? Is it at Burnley?
It's at Borough, yeah.
It's at Borough. You wouldn't put it past them. We've just been talking about how brilliant Burnley have been in recent weeks. The great run there on, the comfortable victory over Sheffield United in the last game. Like you said, Borough have blown a 3-0 lead. But I wouldn't put it past them just kind of steamrolling past Burnley at the weekend. They've got that ability. They've got that ability. They've got it in them to do that. It must be incredibly frustrating being a Borough fan at this moment in time, because it's odd. You can't, as a neutral looking in, it'd be interesting to kind of get a Borough fan's perspective on it. As a neutral looking in, I can't quite. Well, I have to question: is it kind of a mental thing there? Because I've seen him play defensively, really well and be really kind of resolute at the back.
Yeah, the Hawthorns in particular, were great that day, weren't they?
Keep the opposition out, limited, to hardly any chances. And then I've seen him, put in really brilliant attacking performances, scoring, some cracking goals. So they've got that ability. It's not like every game they're shipping in goals. Every game they're poor defensively. So there's an obvious issue there that's to be resolved. But yeah, I don't know what it is. That's, like I said, that's what I can only think. Is it some sort of the players they've got in there? In terms of championship experience, they've got quite a young team, haven't they? Maybe that's what they're lacking. A bit more experience in there to kind of calm things down. After that first Sheffield Wednesday goal goes in, you kind of need leaders in there then, don't you, to say, okay, come on, let's kind of do the simple things right. Let's kind of not concede another. Let's kind of be really on it for the next 10 to 15 minutes, keep them out. Maybe that's what they're lacking, a few more leaders in there, a few more players, with that experience. I don't know. It's just odd. I do find it odd because, yeah, me, I'm a massive fan of theirs. I think Michael Carrick's, really promising young head coach, destined for better things. But there's just something that's obviously not quite right there at the moment in time, and he doesn't seem to be sorting it out. They just seem to always have this inconsistent side to them, this little bit of a kind of soft underbelly. It's odd.
Well, let's flip it on to Danny Rowe then, because he makes two changes at half time. Mingleson comes on, and Shalaba, who I thought was really impressive, second 45 as well, and they go on and they get the point. I think they've got the most points from losing positions out of any side in the Championship this year, which is a great start, probably an unwanted start, to be honest, but it is a great start. It shows that they don't give in and they've got plenty of fight in them. Gassama, I thought as well, he impressed me. He's a bit of a rough diamond. He does a lot of great things, but also he's quite capable of running the ball out from out his feet as well. So I just thought it was a great second half display from Sheffield Wednesday and a massive point, really.
Yeah, it's just again, kind of testament to Roll and how good of a coach he is. Like you said, that stat you've just said there just kind of proves that he's got that ability to adapt in game. I don't think there's enough head coaches doing that these days, especially in the Championship. I feel a lot of them just kind of have kind of a one-track mind, in terms of how they want to play and approach games, and struggle to adapt. Where I think that's why Roll's so highly regarded, is that he's able to kind of chop and change and see when things aren't working.
And do that thing that you credited Corberan doing about squeezing every drop out of his squad.
Well, this is the thing, mate. I was about to say, like, again, I've said it before, but, there's probably not one, I'd struggle to think of one Sheffield Wednesday player that you'd replace with one of the starting Middlesbrough players. That's that's just facts. Middlesbrough's starting 11. I'd struggle to think of someone I'd take out of there and swap with.
Maybe the keeper. Maybe the keeper.
Maybe the keeper. But he's not even their goalie, Beadle. He's on loan.
Right, isn't he?
So that's it, mate. So that's what I'm saying. This is exactly it. This is why him and Corberan were so highly regarded because exactly that, like you said, they're squeezing absolutely everything out of these guys. They're mid-level championship players at very best. But he's squeezing that extra out of them and turning them into a team that's capable of giving the very best, a run for their money. So yeah, I'd hate to say, Sheffield Wednesday fans are probably, hating people saying it, but I'll be surprised. He's got to get backed. He's got to get backed. I feel, the board have simply got to back him. If they want to keep hold of him, they've got to back him. They've got to give him some money to spend to genuinely try and get Sheffield Wednesday out of the championship, because I do feel like if he was given a bit of money to spend, to improve that starting 11, then he could definitely turn them into a playoff team. They're not far off it at this moment in time, but if they can back him a little bit more, give him a bit more ammunition, then. But I just feel like a big fish is going to come in for him sooner rather than later, mate. I honestly do. And if it's not the Premier League, there'll most definitely be teams on the continent looking at what he's doing with Sheffield Wednesday and thinking, this guy's got a big future.
Well, listen, he said himself that there had been talks, when he was linked to other jobs, particularly Southampton, and I think, kind of alluded to that the owner Shansiri had given reassurances that he will have something in January, but he even said himself, let's see if this happens. So, Shansiri's got a bit of a reputation. Let's not get into that, or we'll have lawyers on our cases. Listen, we've got kind of 5 minutes left because I know you're jump on another pod to do your bit for West Brom against Sheffield United at the weekend. Just initially start, it's only the third time in 10 years that a side has gone 3-0 down at home. Sorry, 3-0 down away from home and come back and got something from the game. So it is an anomaly. It's not something that happens all the time. And, I'd love to know how many Sheffield Wednesday fans jumped in the car and headed back home at 3-0.
There's got to be some, hasn't there? There's got to be some. Because it's a bit of a drive still, obviously, but yeah, there must have been a few thinking, "Now I'm going to beat the traffic. This is done and dusted."
I saw a tweet. This guy said, "My dad's been following Sheffield Wednesday for 47 years or 57 years. It was a high number." And he said, and he's never saw them come back from 3-0 down. We were at Weatherby when the third one went in.
Yeah,
love it,
man.
absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Watching there's loads and loads of stories from Boxing Day. Probably too many to mention, but just want to quickly finish on the scenes at the end at Vicarage Road. Probably shows you how sort of well Portsmouth are doing at the moment. That they're feeling that that pumped and that aggrieved that they've lost that game. Cleverly, I think it's now 17 on the bounce at Vicarage Road. It's something mad stat like that. So no shame in losing there, but Portsmouth, as we alluded to before, probably are kind of had an upturn in fortune. And if you are Stoke, you're going to be concerned.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the highlights, mate. The penalty that got Watford back on level terms, mate, was an absolute horror decision. Another championship. Never a pen, absolute championship classic, howler. So, I definitely feel for Portsmouth. Look, again, I've only watched the extended highlights. I think Watford were at least deserving of a point. They did carve out, some good chances. But from what I saw, yeah, Pompey put in another really promising performance. And like you said, with the scenes at the end, they obviously, felt aggrieved and really unlucky not to get something from the game. Sound like a spicy one because the two managers, I've seen a bit from the two managers afterwards as well, that cleverly was kind of calling out Mousinho for, saying this, that and the other on the sidelines as the game was being played out. And Mousinho's come out today and said something, he ain't fussed what Cleverly's saying. And yeah, it definitely seemed like a spicy one, man.
Cleverly come out after the game and on, obviously, Bar was subject to alleged chanting from the Pompey fans. And he done a little Fortnite dance, is it? Is that the Fortnite dance?
Yeah, he was he was winding up the Portsmouth fans, and the Portsmouth players obviously didn't like it. They've gone running after him. I think the refs give him a second yellow, and he's obviously got a red card. For going up, and it's just not necessary, is it? Winding up the Portsmouth fans. You've got the win, late in the game. You've got the 3 points. That's enough. You can just go and celebrate in front of your own fans. I've got no time for that. If you score a goal and you're in front of the away fans and you're giving it some, then that's fine in my opinion. You know, that's part and parcel of it. But after the final whistle, to go up and start giving it some to the opposition away fans, I think that is out of order. So, you know, I can understand.
And to be fair, his manager sort of waded in a little bit. He said he needs to get used to that sort of scrutiny and abuse at times. You have to deal with it better, because now he's learning his lesson the hard way. So I'm disappointed with that, but I thought he had a great game.
Yeah, so, well, I'll give Cleverley credit, because if you watch the clip, he goes up to him. You know, after he's been sent off, he comes over to Cleverley, and you can tell Cleverley's not happy with him, and he just tells him, like, you know, just get in the dressing room. You know, he was obviously disappointed with how he dealt with it, because yeah, look, you're a professional footballer, mate. You've got to accept, you know, abuse as long as it doesn't overstep that mark, you know, and turns into racist abuse or something of that sort. That's not on, obviously. But in terms of just, like, you know, the opposition fans getting on at you and giving you some banter, then that's part and parcel of it. You know, you've got to deal with that. And the way you answer that is by scoring and getting the 3 points, which they did. You know, that's all you got to do. This is the thing. This is going to be a bit. This is going to show my age now, mate. But I'm starting to get it. It's only become, I don't know, it's something quite recent, I feel, in football, where this shithousing has become like this thing that's like everyone.
Neil Maupay's put it to a new level, hasn't he?
Yeah, everyone thinks is great and hilarious, and I just think, nah, it's not. And I might be showing my age there, mate. People might be going, "You absolute muppet," but not for me, because everyone's been kind of applauding him for winding the Portsmouth fans up and giving it the L and winding them up and this, that, and you know, top class shithousery, they keep saying. And I'm like, nah, not for me. That's just like I said, I just think you score a goal, you can wind the away fans up a bit, by all means, but none of that at the end, man. Like, just rein it in, go and celebrate with your own fans. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Okay, listen, we will we'll draw a line under there and leave it till Monday night. Hopefully, we'll be back on and talking about Sunday's games. If there's anything like Boxing Day, then we'll have plenty to chew over. You can catch Tom over on is it the red and white? I forget the last name of this podcast. That's really bad.
I'm just looking now. I'm gonna we'll dig it out. We'll put it in the link.
Yeah, we'll put a link on our page as well, and you can catch Tom talking about Sunday's game, Sheffield United v West Brom, which I'm going to be at, coincidentally. So if anyone sees me, I am under 22 years old. Okay. Right, Tom, as always, pleasure, mate. Cheers. As I say, we'll see you back on Monday night, 8:30.